Namaskar everybody and welcome to today's Geeta Satsang. So let us get started with the Prarthana. By the Guru's grace and the will of Sri Krishna, we have all assembled here for this Geeta Satsang. May we have their guidance to be able to learn and adopt the things which will help us to grow spiritually. So let us chant the shlokas together. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnaya Vasudevaya Haraye Paramatmane Pranata Klesha Nashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namostu Te Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullara Vindaya Tapatra Netra येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः रामानुजदया पात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकम् यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुग्म व्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये. So with prayers at the lotus feet of the Acharyas, let us start with our shloka for today. So we are still in the fifth chapter and we are still in the second chapter and Krishna is continuing to explain to Arjuna. So in the previous satsang, we have seen up to the 19th shloka. So today we will go into shloka number 20. So Krishna says, न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् आयं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. So the meaning of this, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna, the soul is neither born nor does it ever die, nor having once existed does it ever cease to be. The soul is without birth, eternal, immortal, and ageless. It is not destroyed when the body is destroyed. So again we see the same theme. Krishna is continuing to explain to Arjuna. Now we may wonder that why is it that Krishna has told this same thought about the soul, about different aspects of the atma. In now since the past so many shlokas, we are seeing that this description is being given. Now why is it necessary for him to tell again and again? To understand this, we must understand that Arjuna is in such a desperate situation. Now, you please try to remember any situation in your life where, let us say, a friend or some relative of yours or somebody who you are very close to, through whatever relationship, if that person has been in a very depressed state of mind, right, and they are, talking in a very defeated kind of way, and they have completely lost hope, or they are feeling like helpless, and they have confessed that feeling to you, and you know very well that whatever they are feeling is not correct, that they should change their attitude, and you want to motivate them to give up that state of mind and become more positive minded. When you have this kind of a situation, if you try and remember how you must be talking, you must have talked to that person, right? Then it is very easy to understand. When we talk to people whom we want to kind of shake up and we want to make them see the meaning, and make them deeply understand and change their mindset, then what we do, we tell them the same thought in different ways, from different angles, using different examples, and giving them different kinds of ideas which convey the same basic meaning. Why? Because it is our hope that they have to somehow, like you, maybe by telling like this, they will be convinced. Maybe by telling that, they will understand it better. Maybe by telling a third angle, they will see it in an easier way, or it will be easier for them to understand, or it will make more sense to them. right? So this is our intention when we talk to somebody who is in a very low state of mind, and we want to shake them out of that. Then we will try and talk to them in many different ways, trying to convince them about what should be their attitude. So in that same way, we must look at this endeavor of Lord Krishna, that he's telling through so many different ways. And actually, although it all looks like the same to us, because we are only seeing the literal meaning, right? So yet in every particular aspect, when Krishna is telling, he is trying to highlight some particular aspect which Arjuna should be thinking about. So in this shloka, for example, now what we can understand from here, Krishna is telling that soul is not born, it does not die, and once if a soul is existing, then it will never stop existing. And this soul is eternal, it is immortal, right? So it is ajaha, it is nitya, it is shashvata, and all these things, and it does not get destroyed when the body changes. So why? What is the meaning? What we can get from all this information? That we understand that whenever there is anything which is subject to change, if the minute there is change taking place, that means there is going to be some modification of the property of that particular entity. And that kind of a modification, eventually, it will lead to degradation or destruction of that particular object, right? It may change its form and exist in some other form, but that form will be destroyed. So wherever there is change, there will be modification, and eventually there will be destruction. So from this we know that we have seen the body, the sharira, is subject to change. And because of this, anything which changes is going to eventually be destroyed. That is the reason why the body, which is always keeping on changing, is going to eventually be destroyed also. Now, for the Atma, if we see, the Atma never changes. And because the Atma does not ever change, it is true equally that there cannot be ever any destruction for the Atma. Now, if you remember, we have talked about this in the past, some shlokas. We have seen how the Atma went, like we say, no, I was a child, I was a youth, I was an adult, I am an old person, I am growing older. So that I part remains the same. It's only the other things that keep changing. So also the body keeps on changing. You were a child, you were an adult, and so on. But that Atma, what is actually the I in that body, can never change. And at the end of this Sharira, it will give up this body and it will go over into another body. So again, the body will change, the state may change, but that Atma is never changing. So that is why here the word, now the we can assume that, Arjuna, when Krishna is telling all this, then Arjuna is saying, okay, fine, now at, in some point of time in the immediate future, the Atma is not going to die, but there must be some point where it will stop existing, right? So that is why Krishna uses this word saying kadachi. So kadachin, when you say, it indicates never. So Krishna is emphasizing that never there is going to be destruction of the Atma, never there will be a time when the Atma does not exist. So why he's telling this? Because it is logical to think for anybody that, okay, we human beings, we have a particular lifespan. So what about the deities, the devatas, who are higher than us? They are in the Swargaloka. What about Brahma? He is in the Satyaloka. So what about all these? They have such a big lifespan. So just because they have a lifespan which is very large, even their atmas are not shashvat. I mean, even their bodies are not shashvata. There is always an end to that sharira also. Now, if we compare human beings with lower things, like you take a plant, you take an insect, you take some animal, and then you have higher up in the scale of evolution, you have human beings. And higher than us, we have the devatas, we have Brahma, and so on. So what happens? The lifespan increases, the ayusha increases. Like insects may have a very few weeks or a few days lifespan. Animals may have a few years lifespan. Humans may have little more lifespan. What about the devatas? Their time scale is totally different, isn't it? Like you must have heard it commonly told that our human in for human beings, what is 6 months, that period of Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. So our Uttarayana of 6 months is the daytime for the Devatas. Dakshinayana of the next 6 months is the night for the Devatas. So that means what? One human year is equal to actually only one entire day and night for the Devatas. Similarly, our 360 years are equal to 1 year for Devas. Now, when you go further and further and you calculate in terms of yugas, you calculate kalpa, and so on and so forth, there is infinite amount of time. So, Brahma's span, for example, will be so many thousands and lakhs and so much big time scale. We cannot even imagine that with our buddhi. But even then, even at the end of that time span, that sharira, what is there as Brahma, will end, but that Atma will never end. So, why Krishna is explaining this to Arjuna to say that never ever there will be destruction of the Atma. Then what is it that happens at the time of Pralaya? So here it is where Ramanujacharya gives the explanation that at the time of Pralaya, whatever Atmas are there, they become like a covering on the Brahman, on Lord, on the Paramatma. And again, when Srishti happens, then these Atmas will take up different forms and get into different bodies. So until and unless a person does sadhana and achieves moksha, attains moksha, and this moksha, according to Swami Ramanujacharya, is entering Sri Vaikuntha and being in eternal service to the Lord there. So until that moksha happens, that Atma will keep on taking different shariras. If there is pralaya which happens in that time span, then it will become a part attached to the sharira of the Lord. And again, when Srishti happens, it will take up another body so that it can do sadhana and get moksha. So this is how the cycle keeps going. So what is our important point to understand here? That never ever there will be destruction of the Atma. So here the Atma is Nitya. And in this nature of being eternal, of being immortal, right? The Atma is similar to the Paramatma. However, does that mean that the Atma is equal to the Paramatma or that the Atma merges into the Paramatma? According to the Vishishta Advaita school of thought, according to Swami Ramanujacharya's philosophy, this does not happen. The Atma gets all the qualities similar to that of the Paramatma, except for two qualities. One is that Atma cannot ever be Shriyapati. He cannot be the husband or the master of Shri, who is Lakshmi Devi. And Atma will also not get the quality of being able to do Srishti. So, except for these two, the other qualities the Atma will get similar to that of the Paramatma. So, although we say that the Atma is Nitya like the Paramatma, we must not misunderstand that the Atma is going to become one with Paramatma. Now, whenever a body is chosen by an Atma, that is based on the karma that it has to undergo, which it has undergone in the past. What is its account? What account settling has to happen? So, according to that, the body will be taken. And based on what kind of a body has been taken, there will be an ability to gain or to increase the jnana. Now, we know that Atma Swarupa is Jnana Swarupa. Atma Swarupa is Ananda Swarupa. But because of all these karmas that we have done, because we have all these rajasic and tamasic qualities which have been taken up, so due to that, we are not able to actually be aware of that jnana. So when you are in a particular sharira, based on what is that sharira, you will have an ability to get more jnana and increase that jnana. Like for example, if some atma has gone into the sharira of a plant, there is no opportunity to get jnana. If it has gone into an animal, a very low level animal, there may not be much opportunity. Then as you come into a human life, there is an ability to gain. Based on your karma, you will be born in a particular family and you will get accordingly the opportunities. How you are making use of them will decide how much jnana you are going to increase in. And by gradually going up and up and up, evolving on this scale, we are meant to finally go to moksha. So the thing to remember here is that Atma has qualities which are very similar to the Paramatma, but it is not able to understand that because of the what you say, the veil or the covering which has come because of the karmas. So never ever there is going to be any kind of a destruction for the Atma. Now Krishna moves on to the next, in the next shloka. He continues forward this thought. And we will understand why it is that he is stressing so much about this Atma being imperishable, right? So in the 21st Shloka, Krishna says, Veda vinashinam nityam ya enamajamavyayam katam sapurusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. So Krishna is asking a question now. O Partha, O Arjuna, the person who knows that the soul cannot perish, the person who knows that the soul is imperishable, that it is eternal, that it is unborn, it does not take birth, it will not die, and immutable, that means it does not change its nature. So if somebody has this jnana, then do you think that person will be going to kill anybody, or will he cause someone else to kill somebody else? Will he himself kill, or will he instigate someone else to kill? Is that possible? This is the rhetorical question which Krishna is asking Arjuna. So he's trying to tell Arjuna that, see, this is the kind of knowledge that you are supposed to acquire. Now, why Krishna wants Arjuna to get this knowledge? Because we again come back to what was Arjuna's problem. What is his whole dilemma? That he thinks these are my relatives, this is my Acharya, this is my grandsire. So, how will I fight and kill all these people? So, what Krishna wants Arjuna now to understand, that the Atma in all these individuals is eternal. It cannot be killed. So he is telling Arjuna that, oh Arjuna, you understand that the soul cannot be killed. So if you know and you realize that the soul cannot be killed, do you think then this act of fighting against them, by that you will be able to kill them? You will understand that you are not the one who is killing them, right? At the same time, you need not also feel that, okay, I have pulled all these relatives of mine together, and I and my brothers, we are all fighting, and we are making, each other to kill those other people. So if you understand the nature of the Atma, you will get rid of this thought that you are the one who is doing the killing. And when you get rid of that thought, then your despair and your desperation and your depression will go away. So Krishna wants Arjuna to understand the true nature of the Atma, because the minute he understands that Atma cannot be killed, then he also understands that he is not the killer. He cannot kill. He cannot cause that action of death to happen also. So Krishna wants Arjuna to understand that this is the nature of the Atma. The Atma has no janma. It does not undergo any kind of change. It is not destructible, and it will always be present. It is nitya. It is eternal. And somebody who understands this nature of the Atma from deep within will give up the sense of doership. Now, until I think that I am a person, I am somebody who is this body, I will get the idea that I am doing the killing. The minute you understand that this body is separate from the Atma within it, and that person who is standing opposite to me is also not that body which I am seeing, but the Atma which cannot be killed, then that sense of doership, that I am killing and that person is dying, that whole construct goes away. And then Arjuna will be able to perform his duty of fighting without getting lost in the emotion that he is now lost in. Right? So, if Arjuna understands this truth about what is the nature of the Atma, then he will not suffer from this despair. So, to explain this, again, we can try to understand from another example, which is of the Yaksha Prashna episode, which comes in the Mahabharata. I think many of us may be aware of this. Like during the time when the Pandavas were in the forest during their Vanavas and subsequent, time in the forest. So at that one point of time, they were all feeling very thirsty. They wanted water to drink. So then Nakula or Sahadeva, one of them, Sahadeva, I think, he goes in search of water, saying, I will find water and come back. Now he goes and finds a pool of water and he wants to drink that water. When he hears a voice, a shariri, there is a sudden voice, he can't see a person, anybody, but there is a voice which speaks to him and says that you are not going to drink this water. I can't allow you to drink this water. I am the person who owns the water in this pool. You can't drink this unless you have answered my question. So when that is a yaksha, it is an unseen, invisible being who has some higher powers. So that yaksha makes this statement. Now Sahadeva says, nothing doing. I am very thirsty. I am going to drink the water and I will go and take it to my family also. And only after that I will, be able to give some attention to you. So he does not heed the warning of the yaksha and he goes to drink that water. The minute he drinks and sips that water, or even before that, he just faints and falls unconscious. Then, because Sahadeva has not come back for a long time, Nakula goes in search of him and of water. The same thing happens. Nakula falls into a unconscious state. One by one, everybody. Arjuna goes. He also same situation. Bhima goes. He's so powerful. For him also same situation. So finally Yudhishthira goes in search that what happened? My brothers are such great and powerful warriors. Nobody can have done anything to them. Then why are they not returning back? So with that anxiety, he goes in search of them. And when he goes in search of them, finally he goes to that pool, same pool. He sees his brothers all lying there unconscious. And then the Yaksha makes the same challenge to Yudhishthira, that you are not supposed to drink this water. I will not let you have this water until you have answered my question. So we know the quality of Yudhishthira, which he is famous for: his humility, his obedience, his following the path of dharma. So immediately, instead of arrogantly replying back to the yaksha or trying to defy that yaksha like what his brothers did, what Yudhishthira does is he says, please tell me, ask your questions. I will answer to the best of my ability. Whatever I know, whatever little knowledge I'm having, with that, what I can answer, I will try to answer your questions. So then the Yaksha starts asking a series of questions, and that's a very famous episode. And if we really understand those questions and the answers to them, it will give us a direction for how we have to lead our life itself. So in out of all those questions, there is one bit of two questions connected to each other, which is important to our discussion of today's shloka, this concept of the atma being nitya. So at one point of time, the yaksha asks Yudhishthira in the flow of questions that what is surprising in this world, right? So at that point of time, Yudhishthira answers that this sharira, it is a gross thing and it is big in size. And the atma, which is very sukshma, it is very subtle, it is so tiny, it is within this sharira. And there are 9 dwaras, there are 9 outlets, or openings rather, for this body: our 2 eyes, our 2 ears, and so on. So 9 dwaras are there. And yet the atma does not escape out through any of these dwaras in the normal course of events, and it stays within the body. This is what is surprise, he answers. So Yaksha is very happy. Then he asks a further question. Even more than this, what is it that is most surprising in this world out of what all you have seen? At that point of time, Yudhishthira gives a reply. He says, according to me, the most surprising thing in this world is that every single day there are hundreds and thousands of people who are dying. Everybody sees that this XYZ so and so person has died. And yet, despite seeing that another person is dying, still this person who is seeing believes that he will be eternal. He does not realize that someday his turn is also going to come. Even as the person is lifting that pyre on which that dead body is, he is making plans for his own life, not realizing that one day his situation will also come. So, in spite of seeing day after day that people are dying, still everybody thinks that they are eternal and they will live forever. That, according to me, is the most surprising thing in this world. So when Yudhishthira, now of course the story continues to say that the Yaksha was very happy finally with all of Yudhishthira's answers, and he comes in his real form, and it turns out that he is actually Dharmaraja, he's actually Yamadharma who has come there, he who is the father of Yudhishthira. So he has come there to test the ability of Yudhishthira, to test the wisdom of Yudhishthira, right? So that story part is different. But what we need to take here is from what Yudhishthira told, right? That we also have this concept that we think that life will go on forever. We make plans so much for the future, and we are always concerned about the tomorrow. There are some one set of people who are lost in the past, that whatever happened, they still go over those events. If I had done that differently, if I had done like this, if that had not happened, if they had not done this to me, and so on. So they live in the past. But more than that, all of us today, we have so much anxiety and we are so worried over things because we are worried about what is going to happen in the future. Whereas actually speaking, there is no guarantee at all about what is the future, what, how long is my future, what kind of future it is, right? So here, when we talk about this discussion, this answer that Yudhishthira gave, it is to show that everybody, every human thinks that this life that he is having is eternal. Whereas actually, in a way, he is correct, but it is not for the body, for the sharira that thing applies. That sharira will die, that sharira will degrade and go away one day, but the atma within will always be eternal. So, what we must understand from these shlokas is that try to understand. Of course, it is very difficult. Of course, it is not so easy for us to come to that understanding. But at least if we keep hearing these things again and again, somewhere we can try and make ourselves aware by repeating to our own mind that there is a difference between the body and the atma. So we must try and cultivate a kind of detachment. When any situation happens, I am part of the situation. Now, generally, when something is happening between two other people, we are able to always, be a silent spectator, or we can be an onlooker and like a sakshi. We can just watch what is happening. But when it comes to our own self, when events are happening in which we are involved, or events which affect us very greatly, then we get emotionally attached and we get lost in that emotion. But what we can do is practice slowly, at least, to try and when the incidents are happening, also keep a separate outlook, learn to step aside from your own entity and see what is happening with detachment, without any strong emotion attached to that. Assess that event objectively and try to see what you can learn out of that. And the more we remember the message from this discussion between the Yaksha and Yudhishthira, the more we should keep telling ourselves that nothing is permanent. We want all the time that our expectations should be met. We want people to behave a certain way and we want it to continue ever, forever, just like that, right? This whole idea that we have of happily ever after, that everything should go smoothly for us. It is not necessary that it will happen like that. And when unpleasant things come our way, then we must learn to be detached from that emotion. We must learn and try to not get defeated or not feel let down or not feel any kind of a negative emotion by understanding that whatever is happening is for the sharira. And actually, what I'm saying as I, is the atma within, which is not disturbed by all this. This Atma is something which is of the nature of Jnana. It is Jnana Swarupa. It is Ananda Swarupa. So this Atma is actually not affected by any of this. So as we learn to try and we try to cultivate this kind of an attitude, we will find it easier to go through our life without feeling those ups and downs in a very strong manner. So let us pray that Lord Krishna will bless us and give us the ability to try and practice these things. So we have come to the end of our shlokas for today, and we will offer Kritagnyata now. If anybody has any questions, then we can take them up next time, as we are going to be running short of time, I suppose. So let us offer gratitude, Kritagnyata, at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and Guru for inspiring us to start and join this satsang. And let us pray for their blessings and grace to always be on us. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I'm sorry I had to, Zarnaji and everybody else, thank you so much. I had to delay the start of this satsang because there was some other activity happening. So anyway, I'm glad that although we started a little later than usual, you could all join in. Thank you so much. If you have any more questions or doubts about whatever we have discussed so far, please send them to me on WhatsApp and we will make sure that we try to answer those questions. If we feel that all this is, kind of like theoretical, it is just going on about the Atma, then it's okay. It is not necessary that always we understand or we grasp we are able to, implement in our life whatever we hear right at the first voice. But the very act of just listening also is going to make a big difference for our life. So we'll stop here for now. Thank you so much.